Hi friends, Kaylee with Kaylee's Canvases here. I am coming to you today to show you a very simple trick that I will use on occasion for creating a picture, an outline for a picture. Let's say I want to paint something or draw something, but I want to make sure the proportion's right and everything before I actually start getting into my detail in the picture. And so I just want to get a basic outline. So what a really great technique for that is actually tracing. This sounds like taboo for a lot of artists. They're like, oh, I don't trace. And for a long time I felt that way too. I will say sometimes it can actually frustrate an artist when you know you're really good at something, but you're afraid to get going because you're afraid you're not going to get the right proportions or whatever, or maybe it just takes super long to just draw out normally. Just a quick, simple thing, tracing can actually help you focus on other details like shading and color and the things that you think are the most fun, whatever kind of art you do. So I am gonna be doing, I want to trace this today to show you as an example how to trace. So we will trace this. There's a couple different ways you can do it. We will trace just the general background for the ocean and the chairs onto another blank piece of paper. All right, we'll trace that on there so that way we can go in and either draw or paint that later. You can do this on a blank sheet of paper or you can do it on a blank canvas. Whatever works for you is fine. Some things that you'll need, you can either get this fancy graphite paper. It's used for tracing. As you can see, I've used this one a lot. And the great thing is they come in like a pack of maybe 20 or 50 sheets, depending on the size pack that you get of graphite paper. But because I can literally make it last years, the pack, because I'll use one sheet over and over and over again until I can't use it anymore. So that's the great thing about graphite paper. It's not a huge investment. I don't even remember how much it costs, maybe $5-6 for a small pack. But you can find it at any craft store, and you don't need to buy really any fancy tools. You can buy these are tracing tools, and it just has like a little ballpoint on the end, or you can simply just use a pencil. Either one is fine. So I'll show you one method with graphite paper, and then I will also show you a method where we can just use whatever we want to trace and a pencil. It's so easy that you don't even need any tools if you don't have anything or you don't want to invest in anything. All right, so the first thing I'll show you is actually to do it with the graphite paper, and then we'll do it without the graphite paper. All right, so what you want to do, you get your paper wherever you want it. All right, you want to make sure it's on a flat surface. These tiles are not flat, that's why I have this cardboard notebook underneath here. But you get a flat surface, all right, and you put your graphite paper down. You want it to be the darker side down, so that would, because this is where the graphite is. Okay, you can see it's slightly darker than the other side. So you want this to be facing down because you want the graphite to go on your clean sheet of paper. All right, so we're going to put that on there, and then we're just going to take our other paper that we want to trace, or whatever picture it is, and you're going to just try to make sure it lines up with your paper underneath. It doesn't have to be perfect unless you absolutely want it to be, but I'm just gonna go in and line that up a little bit. All right, and some things you can do to make sure this stays in place, because when it comes to tracing, you don't want to move your paper all over the place. You can tape this down so it stays in place, or you can just hold it with your hand as you're going through, but you really have to make sure that your paper does not move, because that will actually cause some of your pictures to be off, some of your lines to be off centered in the picture. All right, so I'm going to go in, and like I said, you can either use the tracing tool or a pencil. I'll use the tracing tool for the graphite paper, and I'll use the pencil for when we do it with just a pencil. All right, so for this, I'm going to go through, and I'm going to trace the background. So I'm just going to do the water line with my pencil, or with my tracing tool, and I'm going to take it all the way to the edge of my paper underneath. All right. If I didn't want to include that line, I didn't have to. I could always use a ruler later to if I want to make a straight line, but I just did it anyways. So you can notice I'm going to be holding my paper the whole time because I don't want this to wiggle around at all, or my lines will get completely messed up. All right, so I'm going to then take my tool and I'm going to just trace the outline of the chair. All right, each piece. All right, and we're just gonna keep going. You can get super specific with how much detail you put in, or if it doesn't matter, you're just looking for a basic proportion, then you would just maybe do a couple little lines here and there for wherever if you were just more focused on the proportion part. But if you want to get very precise lines for whatever that picture is, because you just want to feel more confident in that, you can be more precise. Like me, if I was doing this on my own, I might just do one line down the middle so I can know the difference for each slab. But if you want to make sure that you're getting every little tiny piece, that's fine too. You can go through each little piece. All right, so I'm just gonna keep tracing. I'm gonna focus on one part at a time, because if I start doing a little bit here and then a little bit over there and then a little down here, I might not remember exactly what I traced, and then when I lift up my paper, I might not be able to get it back to the same exact spot that it was, and it would be harder to fill in those gaps. So it's very important that you trace the parts that you all the parts that are important to you without really forgetting where they are. All right, so I'm just taking this down so I can see where all the parts of my drawing that I'm going to want to do, where they are. So got the legs here. I want to make sure I get the bars that go across. Alright, we'll do all this and I'll show you the pencil one in a minute. I gotta get the ones that go across on here. And the nice thing about this is you can even change this. I always, people say that, like I said, sometimes a lot of artists think that tracing is taboo, and it is to a certain degree, because you don't want to ever steal somebody else's picture or painting. Like, I would never just take another artist's stuff and just trace out exactly what they have and draw it exactly the same. A lot of times I'll just use it so that way I have proportion, and then I'll add in my own details. Like for this picture, I just really want this for the chairs. And then what I'll do is I will change the ocean and the sky and even the sand, and I'll change the colors of the sand. And I could even change, if I want to do, I could change things up. Maybe I make this so that way there's no bar straight down here. It just is, flat. However you want to do it. Maybe you have a flat top on your chair. You don't ever want to completely steal another artist's artwork. You use it for inspiration or maybe proportion, but don't ever steal another artist's work. It might be flattering. It might sound like, oh, I just do it because I like it, but a lot of times, you're stealing an artist's idea or how they make their money, and that's really not a fair thing to do. You wouldn't want somebody to steal your stuff and make a profit off of it. If you're just doing it for your own self, like let's say you want to just paint something for yourself to keep in your house and you're not going to sell it, that would be fine. If you're just learning how, you want to do it to learn how to improve your own skills, that's okay. But as soon as you try to make a profit, you have to make sure you're not stealing other artists' work. Okay, so that is my little ethical lesson there for this, but we are just tracing everything all around. Okay, making sure that we get all of the parts here. And the other thing is you can erase graphite. So if this, you know, let's say there's a couple lines that I don't like or I want to change something on this, I can erase it. I will say sometimes graphite paper, the lines from graphite paper can be a little bit harder to erase than regular pencil, but you can do it. See, almost done with this. I'm just trying to make sure I got all the different parts because I don't want to have anything missing. And I can straighten out these lines later. Like if I'm doing anything crooked or whatever, or I don't like the way it maybe looks, I can, like I said, I can change it. Okay. And then I'll change the ocean line later because I just really wanted the shape of this. So it's not going to be perfectly straight. Our hands are shaky, whatever. You can change this when you're drawing it. All right. But this is just to get, and then I peel it off. And as you can see, I have a basic outline for the chairs. Okay. So it's as simple as that. Now, if I wanted to do this with just pencil, to me, I like this process because this is very clear. You can see the lines. Graphite paper makes very dark lines. You know, and over time, over use, you'll wear off a lot of the graphite, and maybe the pencil lines aren't as dark. You'll know when it's time to change your graphite paper. But it's still, I've used this probably 100 times on this one sheet of paper, and I still have very clear lines. All right, so I am going to flip this over, all right, so that way I can show you how to do it with just a pencil and no graphite tools, all right, other than my pencil. So what I would do, all right, and you can do this a couple different ways. It depends on how you want your picture to be transposed onto the other picture. All right, but what you would do is you can, if you, like this picture is very symmetrical, but if you wanted your picture to show up exactly like this on the other one, you would trace this side with a pencil first and then retrace it on your paper. If you don't care and you just want it to be a little easier, you could trace this side first around it and then flip your picture and retrace it here. So because I don't care, because it's very symmetrical, I will start off with tracing this first. All right, whatever lines I want to show up on my paper, I'm going to trace on here first. All right, and so you want to make sure that you get enough graphite on the picture for this. So this part doesn't matter if we hold it down perfectly still. All right, so I want to make sure I get a thick enough line here. And this is a very sharp pencil, so I'm going to get really thin lines. So this will be great when I'm doing it on the other side, but unfortunately for now I want to make sure I get some thick graphite lines. This method is great because you don't need any supplies really other than your picture, a piece of paper, and a pencil, but it can be more difficult, all right, because you want to make sure you're going to really match up the lines, and the lines won't be as dark as using the graphite paper. All right, so right now I'm just worrying about I'm not worrying about 100% preciseness. I'm just worrying about getting some thick lines on the edges of all of these. And the reason for that, again, so that way my graphite, I want to make sure I have enough graphite on this picture so it transposes onto the other picture. All right, and there's a couple different things you could do. If you wanted to, you could use a different pencil for this part. All right, right now I'm actually using a 4H, which is probably maybe not even the greatest for tracing. I could use a slightly darker pencil with darker graphite, or maybe I could make sure that this is kind of dull and flat for this part, so I get more coverage, and then I sharpen it when I go to trace. All right, but right now I just want some thick lines. And what I can actually do is I will show you how to do it like this. And I'll actually even show you what it looks like if we lift our paper up in the middle of tracing. Because that is really something you don't want to do. You don't want to lift your paper up during tracing. Right now it would be fine because we're not tracing yet. We're just outlining with graphite. Alright, I'm just making sure, just a reminder, make sure you get good coverage with this. Make sure your lines are thick, or else you're not going to end up with dark enough lines when you're tracing. I apologize if I'm shaking the camera a little bit. Trying to make sure I get some dark lines. Okay, I'm actually just going to do it for the one chair for now. Alright, I'm just going to line up the paper however I want it to be lined up. Alright, I only traced this chair, so when I had it over it was this one, but when I flip it over it's this one. Alright, so just be mindful that when you flip your picture it reverses it. Alright, so I'm only going to trace this chair, and the nice thing is when you do it this way you can see the outline from where your pencil was. Even though there's no pencil marks on this side yet, you can still see the outline of your chair. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace, but I'm going to make sure I have thick, heavy lines. Alright, I'm going to put a pressure to make sure that I get enough pressure on here to transfer that graphite onto the picture. Alright, this process is a little bit harder because you can't always see the picture as well. And if I missed any graphite on the other side, I might not be able to see it all. I won't be able to see it all when it comes over onto my other paper. So if we made any mistakes, they will be revealed in this process right now. But we will see. We'll find out how accurate I was in just a minute. Alright, and we can perfect any lines in a minute. So like if my lines end up being crooked on the paper, this is just for a basic outline. This is not going to be like anything like, oh my gosh, our line was a little crooked or was a little off skew. That's why we have erasers on our pencils. We can go in, we can correct that stuff. This is just for a basic outline because for me, I want to make sure the proportion is good. I want it to be a little bit easier. I know how to add in those details. I know how to make a straight line. I just want the proportion to be a little bit easier for me so I have more time doing what I enjoy, and that's adding in all the details and the colors. Alright, I hope I'm doing this good enough for you guys. We will find out in a minute. And if I did mess up, which I probably did, I probably missed a line or two somewhere. If I did mess up, you guys will see why I like the graphite method just a little bit better. Let's see. And sometimes it's a little harder to see where your lines are on this process. I think I might have missed a line here because there's no indent there. We'll see. But if I did miss anything, the nice thing is at least I still have a basic outline so I can go back in and touch up whatever I missed. Okay, I think I got my chair. Let's see how we did. All right, so as you can see, it's a much lighter outline. Let me zoom in for you just a sec so you can see. Oops, I accidentally turned my camera on, but you can see that there is an outline here. I was right, I was correct here where I actually did miss a little line, but I can just fill that in with whatever works best for me. I might have missed a line here too. But I do have the general outline. Now, I will say that this is actually great when I'm doing pencil drawings. I like this method where I do this with pencil drawings because my lines are lighter and I can erase them easier if I need to. But if I am using this method, let me zoom out for you guys. If I am using this method for a drawing, it's going to be harder because my lines will not erase as easily. Okay? You can see it's still very dark. Okay? I could go and do this and it would still be there. So if you're going to draw and you want, you know, some lines that you can manipulate, you want to do this way where it's really light. If you want something where maybe you're just looking for an outline and you're going to paint it, the graphite paper is definitely the way to go. All right, so I would love to see if you guys trace anything. Show me what it came out as. I would love to see which method works best for you. And, oh, actually, I forgot to show you before I go on. Let me show you what it looks like when you mess up or lift up your paper. So I will do it on this side, all right? And I will show you. We'll start tracing with this, and I'll lift up my paper and try to realign it, and we'll see how it comes out. All right, so we'll do the line across here. We'll do a line down. Okay, and this is just to show you guys what happens, okay, when you lift up your paper during the transfer and then try to put it back down in the same exact spot. Okay, let's see. I want to see. Oh, okay. So I've still got my hand here and I just want to look, but let's say I accidentally lift it up and I go to put it back down and I'm trying to guess, okay, let's see, it might have been here. Let me just try to, I'm just going to try to add on to where I think it might have been. I could probably do a little bit better job, but I'm just trying to show you what happens when you lift up your paper. And you can see how now my lines do not line up exactly. Actually, I did a decent job, but they don't line up exactly the way I wanted them to. You can see it's a little bit off skew here in the center. And it even comes up a little bit here. I didn't do too bad. I've definitely done worse. I've had it be like a whole half of an inch off. But whenever you lift up your paper, you will end up with undesirable proportions. All right, so all right, now to finish my message. So if you've found this video helpful and you know you want to go and do this, I would love for you to like and subscribe or follow or whatever you have to do. Comment. Let me know what worked best for you. I would love to know. I would love to see your progress, and I hope that you enjoy more videos. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You have a great day.